I'm Jason Las Vegas, and these are my 2022 NFL Week 2 teaser picks. In this series, we make teaser bets, 6 points in our favor. In a teaser bet, you could move the line 6 points, 7 points in your against the spread or the total, but you cannot make any money line picks. I'm going to take the Kansas City Chiefs down from -4 to +2. I don't think Kansas City is going to lose this game. This is a division game, so it should be a pretty close game. Chargers are coming off of a win over Vegas. Chiefs are coming off of a win over the Cardinals. Mahomes threw for 360 passing yards, and he had 5 touchdowns in that game. Chargers have some injuries on that offense, so short week. I don't see them going into Kansas City and defeating the Chiefs. With it being a division game, I'm going to take it down from -4 to making the Chiefs a +2, just in case they lose by 1 point. Next game, I'm going to take the Miami Dolphins, who I think they could win outright, from +3.5 to +9.5. Basically make it 2-possession score. Ravens looked okay versus the Jets. I wasn't like overly impressed with their performance over the Jets. I was definitely more impressed with the Dolphins win over the Patriots, but we don't know how good either of those two teams are, the Jets or the Patriots. This should be a really good game right here. These two teams seem like playoff type teams, so this should be a good game. I don't see either team winning by more than 3 points, right? If the Dolphins were favored by 3.5, I'd probably take the Ravens. But with that extra 6 points, I'm going to take the Miami Dolphins up from 3.5 to +9.5. Dolphins can win this game outright, but it's not going to be easy. And I don't think the Ravens, if they do defeat the Dolphins, beat them by more than 4 points. Next game, I'm going to obviously take the Cleveland Browns down from -6 to basically a pick 'em. Jets have almost no chance of winning this game. They lost their first game at home to the Baltimore Ravens. The Cleveland Browns won their first game on the road versus the Carolina Panthers. They were underdogs in that game, and they won that game. So I'll take them -6. I mean, this is an easy. You could probably take the Browns -6 in any parlay, but I'm gonna take them from -6 to pick them in this game. I think the Jets have no chance of winning this game. So if you're gonna give me 6 points for the Browns on basically a pick 'em game, I'll take the Browns. Next game will be the Washington football team coming off of a win at home versus the Jacksonville Jaguars versus the Detroit Lions. Detroit Lions lost their first game at home, back-to-back home games this season. They lost to the Philadelphia Eagles, but the offense put up 35 points in that game. They covered their first game. The Commanders covered in their first game also. This is kind of a game I don't really have an edge on. Can't really say I'm too concerned about the winner of this game. I basically have no skin in this game. Two teams who are about maybe 2 years away from being, maybe 3 years away from being those type of teams. I would not put either team in any parlays, but both teams look promising, right? Wentz looked pretty good. He had 4 touchdowns in that first game for Washington football team. So I do want to keep an eye on the Washington football team, with Dallas not being so great this year. Eagles playing the Vikings this weekend. The Washington football team, they could be tied with the Giants for top after this week if they can go into Detroit and defeat the Detroit Lions. So it should be an interesting game, but I'm not going to bet. The Jacksonville Jaguars versus the Indianapolis Colts. The Colts tied their first game versus Houston Texans. The Jacksonville Jaguars lost their first game versus the Washington football team. Jaguars were underdogs in that game, +3. They did not cover. The Colts were favorites, one of the highest point spreads of NFL Week 1. That line was as high as 8.5. I think it closed at 7. But that game ended in a tie, so the Colts did not cover. I feel like I haven't learned my lesson. I'm going to add 6 points to the Jacksonville Jaguars. I feel like if they can't win this game. They shouldn't be losing to the Indianapolis Colts by more than 10 points. So hopefully they don't lose this game. They should win this game outright. But Matt Ryan threw the ball, 50 times in the first game for the Colts, and Jonathan Taylor ran the ball for over 161 rushing yards. So he could be a problem for this Jacksonville Jaguars team. So we'll see. Hopefully they don't lose by more than 10 points. They probably could win this game outright, but it won't be a good look for Jacksonville if they lose this game by more than 10 points. I may have to stop betting on them this season. I'd be 0-2. Next game, I'm going to have to take the Saints. A lot of favorites at home this week. I'm going to take the Saints up from 2.5 to 8.5. The Saints seem to have the Buccaneers number. Tom Brady, I believe, has not ever defeated the Saints during the regular season in his 2 seasons with the Buccaneers. The Buccaneers looked... they didn't look bad. They looked pretty good, right? In their first game, they went into Dallas, defeated the Dallas Cowboys. They covered in their first game. The Saints, they were losing their first game versus Atlanta Falcons almost the entire game, but they ended up winning that game by 1 point. They did not cover in that game. They were favorites by 5.5 points, I believe, but they did not cover in that game. But they did win, so both teams are 1-0. To me, if you're going to give me 6 points, I'm going to add it to the Saints. The Saints going from plus 2.5 to plus 8.5. That seems like a lot of points over 2 possessions, basically. I think they keep this game close. And if they don't lose, they probably will only... if they don't win, they probably lose this game by 3 points, right? Buccaneers, Tom Brady only threw for like 212 passing yards. Leonard Fournette, he could be the difference maker in this game. But if the Saints shut down that Leonard Fournette rushing in this game, the Bucs could be in some trouble. Nothing against Brady. It's just the Saints are really, really good playing the Bucs. The Saints are at home, giving me 8.5 points. I'm going to take 8.5 points. The next game will be the Carolina Panthers versus the New York Giants. The Carolina Panthers lost their first game at home versus the Cleveland Browns. They were favored in that game. They lost that one. The New York Giants, probably one of the second most surprising game of the week. The Bears were the most surprising, defeating the Niners. But the second most surprising game of the week was the Giants going into Tennessee and defeating the Tennessee Titans. They held King Henry to only 82 rushing yards in that game, while Saquon Barkley for the Giants ran for 164 rushing yards. The Panthers are going to have a problem with Saquon Barkley in this game. So if I could take points, I'm going to take the Giants from -2 to +4. If the Giants do lose this game, I think it probably will be by 1 point, maybe even a last-second field goal. But the Panthers, if they can get up to defeat the Browns in week 1 at home, I don't see them going and stopping Saquon Barkley in New York. So I think the Giants are a very good pick this week. And the Giants could low-key start the season off 2-0. So keep an eye on that. It's a nice little schedule for them. Next game, we have the New England Patriots versus the Pittsburgh Steelers. Both teams were on the road last week. The Patriots were underdogs, +3 to the Dolphins. They lost. They got spanked. They did not cover. The Steelers were +6.5 versus the Cincinnati Bengals, and the Steelers got 5 turnovers in that game. They won the game outright. So it seems like back-to-back weeks for the Steelers to be underdogs, back-to-back weeks for the Steelers to probably get victories. I'm going to add 6 points to this and make the Steelers +8 points. Mac Jones, we're not going to get really too much injury information from the Patriots, but there's something going on with his injury, and there was already questions about the offensive play calling already. So if he's injured, and there's so many questions about the offensive play calling and who's calling the plays, I don't trust the Patriots at all. They're going to be better than the Jets this season, but the Patriots look like they're worse than the Bills and Miami, so I don't see them even winning this game. I'm going to take the Steelers from +2 to +8. Next game will be the Falcons versus the Rams. The Falcons, they lost their first game at home versus the Saints by 1 point, 27-26. The Rams, they lost their first game at home to the Buffalo Bills. The Rams looked horrible in that game. They did get a few turnovers in that first half, but they could not. I think the game was tied in the first half, right? I think they scored 10 points, but I don't think they scored a single point in the second half. So we don't know what's going on with the Rams. I already have the Falcons plus 10.5 in a few other parlays. So even though I can add I could add 6 points to this bet, I really don't want to be the ultimate loser. Add 6 points to the Falcons here, and they lose by 20 to 30 points. So I'm just gonna skip it. But I have to say I'm leaning on, and I already have a lot of bets with the Falcons plus 10.5. Right, I like that offense. Drake London, Marcus Mariota, really, really good dual threat quarterback. He can run the ball on this Rams defense, and they have the tight end Pitts. The Falcons are a team to pay attention to. They have a really, really good offense. Rams 10 days after their really, really bad performance to the Bills. Vegas really likes them, thinking they're going to come back more focused and have a lot more offensive production, but I don't trust that. So I'm just going to skip this for this parlay. But like I said, I already have the Falcons in a few other parlays at plus 10.5. I don't want to add them here and they lose by 20 points and just look like an ultimate loser. But I already have a few bets with the Falcons plus 10.5. Next game, I will take the Seattle Seahawks plus 9.5 to plus 14.5 or something like that. What is that? Plus 15.5? I can count. Is it plus 15? Is that right? I think that's maybe plus 15. It's gonna be plus 6 points. The Seattle Seahawks versus the San Francisco 49ers. Seattle Seahawks coming off of a win their NFL Week 1. It was a Monday night game, so kind of a short week for them, but they play in Seattle, so it's from Seattle to San Francisco. That is not a long trip for Seattle, but they did win their first game. They were underdogs in that game. They were minus 6. Was it minus 6.5? I know they were underdogs in that game. But they did defeat the Denver Broncos. San Francisco 49ers, another team who were one of the largest favorites of NFL Week 1, and they ended up losing the game outright. I think they only scored 10 points in that game, and now they're given 9.5 points. I don't really understand that. But Trey Lance did not look good in the preseason. They re-signed Jimmy Garoppolo, and he did not look good in the regular season first game. 49ers lost their first game on the road to the Chicago Bears, right? So Geno Smith looked pretty good in his first, not his first game, but the Seattle Seahawks first game this season. I'm not going to say the Broncos have a better defense than the 49ers. I just think that with this being a division game, right, 49ers did not look that good in NFL Week 1. Most division games don't go double digits, right? There's probably one possession. Maybe even if the 49ers win this game, they only win by 7. But if you're going to give me up to like 15.5 points, I'm going to add 6 points to this line and take Seattle plus 15.5 points. That's unbelievable. Next game, we're going to have to take the Cincinnati Bengals minus 7.5 down to minus 1.5. Cincinnati Bengals, as I mentioned, lost to the Pittsburgh Steelers in their NFL Week 1 game. They were favorites in that game, and they lost that game. The Dallas Cowboys, they also lost their NFL Week 1 game to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Cowboys were underdogs in that game, and they lost. They did not cover. Bengals, they played the Steelers. They had, I think, Burrow had 17 turnovers in the game. I think it was 17 turnovers, and he had 7 sacks. He literally did get sacked 7 times in the Week 1 game. That's not really good. And the Cowboys have a really good defense, right? Like, you think if you think the Steelers have a pretty good defense, and that they obviously do, but the Cowboys have a very good defense that will get to the quarterback and sack the quarterback. So I'm a little worried about that. I just think that because Dak Prescott is injured and the wide receiver from the Rams is the starting quarterback for the Dallas Cowboys this week. Cooper Rush, right? Cooper Rush? He's the starting quarterback. I'm surprised the Bengals aren't getting more points. You see so many lines, 10.5. You get 49ers getting 10.5, 9.5. Excuse me, Rams getting 10.5. Why are the Bengals, who have this crazy offense, why are they not getting 10.5? I think this line is too low. Bengals will win this game. I'm not even worried about that. So I'm gonna take the line from 7.5 to only 1.5. Even if they do win this game, you would imagine it would probably be like a last-second field goal from the Bengals. So I could take this line down from 7.5 to -1.5. Next game will be the Tennessee Titans versus the Texans. Tennessee Titans. Houston Texans versus the Denver Broncos. Houston Texans, as I mentioned, tied NFL Week 1 versus the Indianapolis Colts. That score was 20-20. They did cover their first game. They were underdogs in that game by 7 points. The line was up to 8.5 points. But Texans did cover in that game. Broncos coming off of a loss NFL Week 1 Monday night game to Seattle. They did not cover. Broncos were favorites in that game by like 6 points. They did not cover in that game. This is kind of a tough game to take here. I feel like the Broncos offense, there's so much going on. It does seem like there may be head coaching trouble already in Denver. So I'm going to add 6 points to the Houston Texans. David Mills is a pretty good quarterback for them. They got some offensive weapons for the Texans. So if basically 3 possessions, 16 points, even if they do lose by 14 points, I don't think they're going to lose by like 16 or 17 points. They'll stay close in this game. I'm not too crazy about Denver's defense. I'm not even too crazy about Denver's offense. Coming off of a short week, a lot of controversy. Why did they kick a 75-yard? Why did they attempt a 75-yard field goal? I think it was 68 yards, but 64 yards or something like that. But completely outrageous for them to even attempt that field goal in game 1. So there could be some trouble in Denver already. I'm going to add 6 points to Houston Texans and take that number from +10 to +16. Next game will be the Arizona Cardinals versus the Las Vegas Raiders. Cardinals, both teams coming off of NFL Week 1 losses. Cardinals lost to the Chiefs, and the Raiders lost to the Chargers. Cardinals were underdogs in that game. I think they were underdogs. My man is 4. They did not cover, and the Raiders were underdogs by, I think it was -3, 3.5, and they did not cover. So 0-1 in the standings, and basically 0-1 against the spread, both teams. So this is kind of tough. But with that, I'll take the Raiders down from 5.5 down to half of a point, basically. I think the Raiders should win this game. As I mentioned before them in previous videos, the Cardinals are just not the same team without Hopkins. The offense just does not look good. They cannot put too many points together. They gave up 5 touchdowns, 360 passing yards to Mahomes in NFL Week 1. I don't think they're going to recover too much better. Adams for the Raiders had 10 catches in his first game, so he's going to be a problem for the Cardinals in this game. So I'll take the Raiders. Is it +0.5? Basically +0.5 of a point, basically. It's going to be 6 points, right? Yeah, so it'll be +0.5 of a point, meaning if the Raiders, they basically can't lose this game, right? Yeah. As long as the Raiders win this game, we should be fine. If the Raiders lose this game, then we get no points. But it'll be +0.5 of a point. Next game will be the Bears versus the Packers. I don't want to go too crazy jumping on the Bears. Their offense didn't put up that many points, right? Versus Fields did throw 2 touchdowns, I believe, in that game. But the Packers, man, you got to be honest, that offense looks horrible. I don't know if Rodgers. I'm not gonna say he was benched in the game. I just noticed that on the box score that Jordan Love played in the first NFL Week 1. I don't know why he played. I don't think it was an injury or anything like that. But I guess they were getting beat that bad by the Vikings that they threw in, Jordan Love in during the quote unquote garbage time. Because of that, I don't trust the Packers offense. I don't want to jump too far because the Packers lost NFL Week 1 last season to the New Orleans Saints, and they looked just as bad. I just don't think the Packers have anybody on offense that you could trust. I'm going to add 6 points to the Bears, right? Bears coming off of an upset win over the Niners. I think if the Bears go into this game and defeat the Packers, people will look at the Bears differently and look at the Packers differently very early in this season. It would be like, you know what? Maybe the Packers won't be able to put it together just like the Patriots. Like we trust them, but then there's that one game when you say, okay, maybe it's not going to change. Maybe the Bears are going to be that much better this season. So plus 10 points seems pretty high for a team that's 0-1, and I don't trust their offense at all. Bears coming off of a win, upset win. Maybe this is the beginning of something for the Bears. I'm going to take them from plus 10 to plus 16, basically 3 possessions. So even if the Bears do lose this game, hopefully they don't lose by more than 15 points. Next game, I know it sounds kind of crazy, but I'm gonna skip the Bills versus the Tennessee Titans. The Tennessee Titans, they lost their NFL Week 1 game versus the New York Giants. Tennessee was at home. Buffalo Bills won their NFL Week 1 game on the road. They were playing the Los Angeles Rams. They covered in that game. Tennessee obviously did not cover in their game. Derrick Henry only had 82 yards rushing, and Saquon Barkley had 164 yards rushing. Now, the Bills are not really known for rushing the ball like that, so that probably won't hurt them too much in this game. But my only problem is that I remember the Tennessee Titans and the Bills played last season, and the Bills lost that game outright. So I don't want to take the Bills. I know the Bills are Super Bowl bound this season, but I kind of learned my lesson. This is already a 12-team parlay. I think the Bills, they should win this game. This is a very different team than last season, and the Titans are a very different offensive team than last season. I don't think they have any weapons besides Derrick Henry. But because I already have the Bills and a few other parlays on a money line, I haven't taken the Bills against the spread in any parlays, but I have the Bills and a few parlays on a money line. I'm just going to skip this. I'm only getting 6 points. So if I took this line down from 10 to 4, it's not really that much. If it was like 8-2, that would be easier because then we'll have at least a last second field goal, and the tied game takes us to 3 points. We cover by 1, but with it going from 10 to 4, you can still have a last second field goal. They win by 3, and we had -4, or they could lose this game outright, right? I don't think, like I said, I don't think the Bills are going to lose this game. This is a very different Bills team than last season, but I did lose on the Bills last season in this spot, so I don't want to add them in this parlay. Next game is this is a tough one, right? We got to be honest. This is a very interesting. There's so many interesting games this NFL Week 2, right? Like there's so many teams after this week. We're gonna say, right? We're gonna say, okay, this team could be official. The Bears, the Giants, and now I'm looking at the Minnesota Vikings. I started the season, I wanted to hammer the Eagles. I was just hammering the Eagles, but you know what? They gave up 35 points to the Detroit Lions in NFL Week 1. They did win the game. They scored 38. It was 38-35. Jalen Hurts ran the ball for about 90 yards in that game, so you have to keep an eye on his rushing them and over usage because he has some great receivers. But the Vikings, they won their NFL Week 1 game versus the Packers. So the Vikings could be official. I think the Vikings are a threat to win this game outright. So +2, we're going to take 6 points there. We're going to take the Vikings +2 up to +8 points. Like I said, the Eagles gave up a backdoor cover to the Lions last week. They were leading the game by about like 16 points, and they only won the game by about 3 points. I think the Vikings with Cook, with Jefferson, one of the, if not maybe second best receiver in the league, right? You got to keep it on. Cooper Kupp obviously is still the best, but I think Jefferson is basically right there, 1A, 1B. So the Eagles giving up 35 points to the Lions. I think they could give up even more points to this Vikings teams. So +2, I'll add 6 points to that, and I will take +8. So we're gonna have a 13-team parlay, a teaser. As you can see, it's 6-point teaser. We're gonna take the Chiefs plus. Okay. We're going to take the Chiefs +2, the Dolphins +9.5, the Browns, a pick'em game, the Jacksonville Jaguars +10, the Saints +8.5, the New York Giants +4 points. They're going to win that game. The Steelers +8 points. They're going to win that game. The Seattle Seahawks +15.5. They're going to win that game. The Bengals -1.5. The Texas, hold on, what are they saying? I'm not even paying attention. The Houston Texans +16. The Las Vegas Raiders +0.5 point. The Chicago Bears +16, and the Minnesota Vikings +8. Let me see if I could make this bet before they. We will bet $2, right, to win $150. Let's see if they let me make this bet. A 13-point, 6-point NFL teaser. Okay, so there you have it. A little bit of confusion there, but those are my 2022 NFL Week 2 teaser picks. 13-team teaser, 6-point teaser. Chiefs +2 against the spread versus the Chargers. The Miami Dolphins +9.5 against the spread at the Ravens. The Cleveland Browns, a pick'em game at against the at home versus the Jets. The Jacksonville Jaguars +10 against the spread at home versus the Indianapolis Colts. The New Orleans Saints +8.5 against the spread at home versus the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The New York Giants +4 against the spread at home versus the Carolina Panthers. The Pittsburgh Steelers +8 at home versus the New England Patriots. The Seattle Seahawks +15.5 against the spread on the road versus the 49ers. The Cincinnati Bengals -1.5 against the spread versus the Dallas Cowboys. The Houston Texans +16 points against the spread on the road versus Denver Broncos. The Las Vegas Raiders +0.5 point at home versus the Arizona Cardinals. The Chicago Bears +16 points at on the road versus the Green Bay Packers. And the Minnesota Vikings +8 points against the spread on the road versus the Philadelphia Eagles. Will I go 13-0 or will I go 0-13? Let me know your 2022 NFL teaser picks. As I said, a teaser bet is when you take 6 points, move it in any direction that you want to move the line in. Who's your favorite? Who's your favorite? Who's your favorite home team? Who's your favorite road team? And what is your game of the week? There's some really good games this week, and I'm going to be very honest. The Chargers versus the Chiefs, I'm going to be paying attention there. Dolphins, Ravens. I'll peek into the Colts and the Jaguars. Obviously, the Bucks and the Saints. I'm going to keep my eye on the Giants versus the Panthers. I want to see what happens there. Got to see what happens with the Patriots and the Steelers. Obviously, we want to see what happens with the Seahawks and 49ers, Bengals, Cowboys, Broncos, and Texans. Not the highest on my list. Cardinals and the Las Vegas Raiders. I am here in Las Vegas, so that's a home game for us. I want to see what happens there. Bears and the Packers. We have to see what happens there. The Vikings, Eagles. That's a Monday night game. We want to see what happens there. And the Buffalo Bills versus the Tennessee Titans. I mean, maybe it's just me, but this weekend looks fun. It looks like a really, really good NFL weekend. I am Jason Las Vegas. These were my 2022 NFL Week 2 teaser picks, 13 team, 6-point parlay, risking $2 to win $150. Thank you for watching.